Hello! Welcome to Duncan Egg Bricks and to part 75 of my Hogwarts MOC series. Today is going to be a bit of a bumper edition, at least I'm thinking of it like that. I'm actually going to be taking a look at all of the other challenges for the Philosopher's Stone. In previous updates we looked at Fluffy in the hidden corridor, or the forbidden corridor I should say, the Devil's Snare down the side, and then the winged keys underneath. But today we're going to be taking a look at the chess, the troll, the potions, and the Mirror of Erised. So stick with this and we will go through the entire challenges to try and beat Quirrell, or as they think, Snape, to the Philosopher's Stone. So as I said, last time we took a look at the first few challenges, and we now transition on to the next one. So once you have collected the correct key, you can then open this door just here, and that will actually lead you through to another module that we've looked at before, and that is Filch's office. I did show you that it's got this little right angle corridor in the corner here, and that actually just takes you, without interacting with Filch's office at all, from one set of challenges on this side, turn the corner, and you end up in the next one, which is of course the chessboard. Now, if you've watched previous versions of this castle, previous updates for previous versions, you will have seen something very similar to this before. Like I've said before, the challenges for the Philosopher's Stone were previously underneath the viaduct entrance building. I've moved them over here to give them a bit more room to breathe. So here is that room to breathe. We've got a bit more of the chessboard. You may notice that I am missing a couple of tiles. They are in a bricklink order on the way, so just a couple of black tiles to complete the chessboard, but other than that, it is finished. Now, this is just a 3x8 section of the chessboard, but I have been very careful, so if I was actually able to add the other squares on here, then it would be a full chessboard with the correct orientation and everything. I don't think I'll be doing that anytime soon, just because it wouldn't get very much use, and in terms of the pieces required, I only have the ones here, but I did want to try and make it as accurate as possible. Now, previously, this basically only occupied I think it was about a 10 stud wide area. It's basically the same size as two of these arches put together, and then one of these smaller doorways in the background. So it was very small, so I was happy to be able to expand it like this, and that has meant I've been able to include an extra piece, and that is the bishop back here. Now, I believe that this is exactly the same design as came with that chessboard set that included a full set of all the pieces, and I thought it was just such a good design that there was no point changing it. Same goes for the queen just there. All that I've changed from the previous version that I had is I've made them a little bit taller. I actually swapped out that rounded brick, the textured one at the bottom, for a 2x2 plate, and I've just, put the brick back in there, which is good. Same goes for the king back there. The knight I've actually changed a little bit. This was previously a very, very simple design. It just included this piece here as the horse's head, essentially. What I've actually tried to represent now with these tiles is it's kind of four legs up. I believe the term is rampant, is actually the position that the horse is in, kind of on its back legs with the front legs up in the air. And yeah, so I've represented those with these tiles, just put one of them angled up as much as it'll go, basically, to give it a bit of character. And yeah, it's just on a hinge underneath, space for Ron to stand behind it. It has just pulled off the plate that it's on. So yeah, I did think about potentially using 2x2 jumper plates with a single stud in the middle for all of the tiles so that this was playable, but ultimately I decided against it. As you can see, Ron here takes up far more than just the single 2x2 square he really should, and in fact all the pieces expand beyond the 2x2 constraints. I think 3x3 is really the minimum space that would be required in order to get them to work, and in fact that set had 4x4 tiles, or they weren't actually 4x4 tiles, they were 2x4 tiles, because the 4x4 tiles didn't exist at the time, but there we go. Around the edges I have just used these little flame pieces, just the flames from the candles. Again, a similar thing that I did in my previous version, but these are just kind of reflecting the flames that are all the way around. I've continued them along here, so you've got a couple there. These are actually attached in a slightly creative way, I think. These door frames, as you can see them here, in fact, I have got a spare one just here, you can see they've actually got this smooth surface on the bottom so that you can put in a glass piece that fits in there, and therefore these are actually sitting on the exposed ends of 1x2 plates, and then these are the ends of 1x2 tiles that slip through. So I managed to make them all fit there, same for this archway over there, and then I've just matched them with a similar design using plates and tiles there. The only other thing to really show you is the outside. This follows the updated version of Rockwork that I've been using in the Hogwarts 2.0. So using this palette of colours here and then keeping it with these dark bluish grey pieces at the bottom. I've also just showed here where there's a doorway just above here, and I've just kind of tried to demonstrate that there's the remains of a staircase. I didn't want to go to the trouble of actually putting a full staircase in, so this is making it look like maybe there was a staircase at once and it's kind of subsided or something like that. But there we go, that is the chessboard, or the chess challenge. I've just knocked a flame off, but I will repair that in a second. So I was just going to do this as an update, but I thought it's been a while since I've given you any updates, and I would do a bit of a bumper edition and finish off the challenges. So that means we then come to our final module, and this has the last 3 challenges on it. So this sits directly underneath the Gryffindor common room and dorms. It occupies about the same footprint, and I was really happy to be able to do this because it does just give us a little bit more space, and it just means that we can really get this some more details into these challenges. Now, the first one, I put a poll out on my channel about what I should do here. There were lots of different options. This is one of the challenges, the first of the 2 challenges that were cut from the films. This is Quirrell's challenge, where it's meant to be a mountain troll that is thankfully already knocked out by the time that Harry and Hermione get there. Now, for this, there were a few options. I could have gone with the more recent mountain troll that came in the Great Hall set, although that is really too big and wouldn't have fitted. I could have gone for the original mountain troll from 2001, but again, that was quite large, wouldn't really have fitted, and it's also a little bit expensive on the secondary market. One of the other choices I did look at was a fantasy castle troll. Now, those were from the mid-2000s, where there was a whole thing where there were dwarves, there were trolls, there were people, and it was a really creative part of castle, though I know not everybody liked it. And what I've actually ended up going for is essentially that, but the modern version. So this is a collectible minifigure. I can't remember whether it's called the Troll Warrior, or I think it might be called the Orc Warrior. But either way, it's representing the same thing, and in fact had a printed shield, which is currently sitting in my medieval market, which is the same emblem used by those fantasy era trolls. So I thought, brilliant, it's a troll, that's great. And I've just laid him down on the floor there to show he's been knocked out. I've gotten rid of his weapons and the very nice cloak that he's got, actually. Let me just try and focus that. There we go. So I've saved that and I'll use that somewhere else. But I have given him a pillow. I just felt bad for him on the floor there, and I figured rather than having his head kind of floating above the ground because of the nature of the minifigure proportions on the studs there, I'd just give him a pillow, so he's just fallen down for a nice sleep, so Harry and Hermione can tiptoe their way around him, and all being well, he won't wake up. Right, on to the second challenge that was cut from the films, and that is Snape's potions riddle. Now, I did have this in the previous version. It was just tucked off to the side, not in the main part of the challenges, but I was really happy to be able to give this a bit more space, as with everything else. So, you've got 7 bottles of potion here, and I used some artwork that I found online, as well as the descriptions of the bottles, to come up with some little mini builds here. They're just on a table. The table isn't the best build. I'm still struggling to try and find a way of coming up with a 7-wide table using existing pieces, so yeah, forgive me for just tweaking that, but if I do come up with a better design, I will replace it. And the way that I've placed it, I've tried to make it so that you could theoretically solve the riddle. I've placed it so that the figure should be standing here looking at the bottles. What I am missing is a piece of parchment or something similar for the characters to actually read the riddle from, and hopefully at some point in the future I will find something suitable that I can use there. The other details in this section are the flames. We've got purple flames which are the way back. And then we have got, well, they're supposed to be black flames, but these were the closest I could get for the way forward. So Hermione takes the potion that takes her back, goes back to rescue Ron and get Dumbledore, and Harry takes the smallest potion, which takes him through the black flames, and that is where we arrive. Just going to pop this down at the final challenge, and that is of course the Mirror of Erised. So there is Harry looking not very happy, and Quirrell, who is trying to get him to show him the Philosopher's Stone, or get him the Philosopher's Stone out of the mirror. Now, where I had this previously, it was actually kind of on the absolute end of the module, and it had its own kind of swinging piece here, and that was because the Mirror of Erised itself, if I take it out, it has just lost its feet, is unfortunately too tall to fit in my underground sections. Now, my solution previously with the folding part was okay, although it did mean it was quite difficult to see. And what I decided, rather than trying to come up with anything creative, I tried all sorts of things with the floor above, having a hole and disguising it with a piece of furniture or something like that. And eventually I just decided that what was simpler was to add a row of tiles and jumpers and just have the top come off. So if there's nothing on top, you can put the top back on and it looks fine, and for when it's got the building on top, you just remove that and just tuck it behind. And I've also taken advantage of some Lego geometry. So this is a 6 wide base, and using some maths, I have put it on an angle, so it just sits on 2 1x1 round plates, pretty solid in there, it's not going to fall anywhere, and then this just goes behind it. And for anyone wondering, this is pretty much, apart from that modification, the Mirror of Erised from the Great Hall set back in 2018, one of the first sets that came out when the theme was revived. Then spinning it round, it's pretty much the same story as anywhere else. Again, I am missing a couple of pieces just here, so I've just tacked these tiles on. Once those pieces have arrived in the bricklink order, I will put them in the right place. Same over here, just missing a 2x4 tile. Other than that, similar lot of rock work using burps with various slopes and pieces over them to kind of break up the silhouette. And then I'm using a corner merp piece here, and then this corner is actually just built up out of regular bricks, and that way it all lines up nicely. So just going to put these back together so we've got all of them in one collection. That goes there, and then that goes, move the doorway piece out of the way, that goes just there. So when it's all together, it fits in a nice, neat little space. You've got the 3rd floor corridor, through the trapdoor, devil's snare, winged keys, around the corner into the chest. You have the troll under there, the potions, and the Mirror of Erised. So those are, I can go back a bit, those are all the challenges for the Philosopher's Stone. And I am really, really happy with how this Hogwarts 2.0 project has come together, because I really like this. It's a really iconic part of Harry Potter. I feel like it's one of the most well-known parts, and I just didn't do it justice in my previous version. So I'm really happy to have been able to come up with this new version for Hogwarts 2.0. I'm sorry it's been a little while since I came with an update, but hopefully this has satisfied your curiosity as to what I've been working on. This isn't the last Hogwarts 2.0 update. There are future updates to come. I've got some work on the wooden bridge and also the kind of area at the end of that with the stone circle where Hermione punches Malfoy in the face. So I'm building that as well. I've also got to work on the Forbidden Forest, the Quidditch pitch, the grounds, things like that. And I've still got space underneath the castle, underneath the bell towers and the grounds that I would like to work on as well, and the astronomy tower, which I haven't built, and the Violet Entrance building, which I'm getting pieces for at the moment. So yeah, lots and lots of pieces still to come. So hopefully you will stay tuned for that. Give it a like down below if you've enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, let me know what your favourite challenge is or any tweaks you think I should make to this. Subscribe for those future updates, and I will see you again very soon.